Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the new release book, The Martian Contingency, by Mary Robinette Kowal. I do not have a physical copy yet of this book because I read it as an e-arc from NetGalley, thanks to the publisher Tor for providing me with that. But I have read the first 3 books in the series before this. My favorite in the series was the first book, The Calculating Stars, a terrific, fantastic, amazing start to the series. And then the series stumbled a little bit. I thought The Fated Sky, book 2, was just okay. And while the third book, The Relentless Moon, was really entertaining, it felt like it was kind of a placeholder book because it wasn't following our main character of Elma, it was following Nicole Wargren instead. But this fourth book, The Martian Contingency, which releases today as I'm releasing this video, The Martian Contingency focuses again on Elma. This time the year is 1970, so it's about 17 years after the events of the meteor has hit Earth, hit Washington, D.C. Humanity has kind of sped up the process for space exploration. It's an alternate history thing where humanity sped up space exploration, and because of various things that happened with women working as computers in the space for space, they actually end up going to space much earlier and being an intrinsic part of the program. And so our main character Elma and her husband Nathaniel are part of this second expedition to Mars. The first expedition happened in, or at least was kind of started in book 2, and now this second expedition happens, which is meant to be the permanent colony on Mars. So they don't like the word colony. So the permanent habitat. They're trying to start that. So to begin with, I'll talk about the positives. I really enjoyed the pacing of the book. The book went by really fast. I really had a good time with it. It's the shortest of the books by a little bit. It's about the same length as The Fated Sky, maybe about 10 or 15 pages shorter. So it's a very quick read, but it is absolutely paced well. I really enjoyed the characters of Elma and Nathaniel. You get to see them both working together because they're both on the mission. That was actually really delightful. They are delightful when they're working together. I don't necessarily love reading about all of their most intimate moments, although I do appreciate reading about a married couple instead of, just a dating couple doing that. But it's still, I didn't love all the intimate moments, but still the way that they talk with each other, the way that they interact is just so sweet and fun to read. So I did enjoy that. I also really enjoyed when the book is getting into how difficult life on Mars is, when the book is getting into all of the types of things you would have to do to survive, what missing some rations would do, how you would try to get food for Mars, things like that. There are a lot of contingencies that you have to rely on for surviving Mars if we were going to send an expedition there, and I really found all of that stuff really, really fascinating. I also really enjoyed some of the ideas in the first part of the book about how do you balance the needs of the crew versus the wants of the crew. I did enjoy figuring out the characters figuring out, hey, we all want certain things to happen, but we recognize that for the necessity of the mission, we have to do other things. And so I found all of that stuff in the first half of the book really, really fascinating. So the first half of the book particularly worked really well for me. However, I do have some negatives. And the negatives are throughout the whole book. They're primarily in the second half of the book, but they're throughout the whole book. So the first negative I had is that they, almost the majority of the people on this expedition, there's like 100 people on the expedition originally that are going, and the majority of them, it's believed, are married couples. And there is a major plot point in the book about them realizing that they're not going to have enough condoms, basically, for for all the astronauts, and them realizing about like the dangers of having children in space and stuff. And did it not occur to the IAC, which is this book's version of NASA, did it not occur to them that maybe putting a bunch of couples on a mission that you don't want to have children yet is a bad move? So that was, I thought, a really big flaw. I felt like the just choosing to put in the married couples and also put in the stipulation that they weren't supposed to be having children yet was, unplausible, because one of the two would have won out before the expedition even started. They would have said, we really can't have kids on this expedition, therefore we're putting all men on it, or we're putting all women on it, or we're putting them on it with without married spouses or anything. Or they would have said, we really want to have kids on this mission, therefore we're going to encourage that. And so that's why the couples are going. But you can't have both. And that just seemed a really big flaw in the book's writing. Another flaw that I felt the book had, and this goes into the second half of the book, which is there is an event that happens on the on Mars that causes them and the leadership back at the IAC back on Earth to basically decide, we're going to put all of the women up in the ship that's up in in orbit around Mars still, and we're going to take all the men that were there and put them all down. So we're going to separate them out. And the reasoning behind that choice, and I don't use this when I'm just talking about books often, but it really bugged me, so I'm going to have to talk about this. That reasoning seemed very contrived. It felt like Mary Robinette needed the women and the men to be separated for part of the story, so as a result, she came up with just a reason for them to be separated, and it just wasn't strong enough. It just wasn't strong enough. And the thing is, she had the answer there. She even had a character hint at the answer, and yet that was not the answer she took for why they got separated. And it was just, I felt it was very contrived and ill thought out. I do want to pause from my negatives and go back to a positive, which is the mystery of the book. I mentioned that this is the second expedition. There was a first expedition, and something happened on that first expedition that our main character, Elma, doesn't know about. On the first expedition, she stayed in orbit. She never came down to Mars. So there was something that happened on Mars that Elma does not know about, and so she spends the majority of the book trying to uncover that mystery. The whole mystery I thought was fantastic. I really enjoyed seeing Elma uncover the clues. I really enjoyed when they came together. I thought it was a great mystery and a great explanation for the mystery. And so I really did like that. I also really enjoyed some of the minor characters. We see Wilbert for a very few scenes. Wilbert is a fantastic character. I wanted a lot more of Wilbert. If they had made him a major character in the book, it would have bumped the book up even more. Also, there were some other characters I really liked in here back on Earth, and I think the book has some, fundamental problems in focusing on just being first person, because it's just from Elma's perspective, you don't get to expand and see what's happening with Nicole, what's happening at the IAC, something that, say, For All Mankind or Ben Bova's books would absolutely be free to do if they needed to. And so I felt like this was very limiting. If I had to guess, if Kowal is going to explore what's happening back on Earth or back on the moon, she's going to go back to kind of like the Relentless Moon type thing, and she's going to write a whole separate novel. But I felt like it should have been sprinkled out with this book instead. Also, I do have one final criticism that I felt was, this is a worldview criticism, and I get that this is, more of a subjective thing, but the whole point of, my book reviews is mostly to talk about enjoyability. And sometimes enjoyability comes from, noticing production of books details, and some of it is from, how it affected me. So this is going into the how it affected me. I did not appreciate the moral themes espoused in the second half of the book at all. The book had a tremendous opportunity to provide a pro-natalist perspective that is quite often missing in a lot of fiction, and would have made, I think, this series a lot more worth it for a lot of readers, and also would have just been good for culture, because it would have felt organic, it would have felt like what was needed at the moment. Instead, Mary Robinette decides to take a more feministic and antinatalist and even pro-abortion stance in the book. And that really is highlighted in the second half. It's like hinted at. And in fact, in the first half of the book, I wondered if she was going to go in the pro-natalist perspective, and I got really excited. And then in the second half of the book, she fully outlines all of the arguments for why a certain character who gets pregnant should get an abortion. But she does not explain why that character might be valuable to that character. Not just to the science, not just to the mission, not just to humanity, but for that character to carry the baby to term. That is never explored in the book. And the reason also, expand beyond that, the reason that it would actually be good for science is only hinted at. It's never actually fully argued. The reason it's also the reason it'd be good for humanity is, again, hinted at, whereas the pro-abortion stance is very clearly argued. And I felt that this was a huge mistake because books like this need to carry that pro-natalist perspective. Not even it doesn't have to conflict with feminism, but it could have worked hand in hand in this book. There was a way to promote feminism and the pro-natalist perspective, and Mary Robinette just totally missed that. Again, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. A lot of people don't have that perspective, but that was one thing that irked me about the book, because I think that another author might have been able to handle that much better. Now, the book, as I said, as a whole, I think is kind of entertaining. It does have a lot of innuendo. It does have a lot of humor, which I actually, surprisingly, did enjoy a lot of the humor, even the innuendo, which I felt bad for enjoying, but it was funny. So Mary Robinette does write a delightful book series. I'll say that if you read the first couple of books and as you were reading these, you were like, I'm not liking how this is kind of chick lit type, where it kind of like the plot will kind of break for a moment to focus on like the romance between Elma and Nathaniel. If you didn't like that in the previous books, you're not going to like it in this book. So that's going to be a continuous thing that unfortunately has not broken yet. I love reading romance, but it's just the way it's handled is just a little odd at times. I still liked their dynamic and their connection. It could have been different. I will also say that the book explores different religions in terms of their rituals and customs really well. It really explores, how, especially with Elma being a Jew, you explore what a Jew's customs are. And you explore a lot about some Muslim customs and some other customs, some Indian customs as well. But there's no explanation of the why. The why of these customs is so important. The why behind Christianity's customs, the why behind Judaism's customs are very important. It's an intrinsic part of the religion. And there's a whole discussion about, am I a good Jew? Am I a bad Jew for, really focusing and stuff? And and Mary Robinette frames the whole thing over whether or not the ritual is performed. But the whole reason behind these rituals is the heart process behind what is the heart of the individual and the faith and the belief in God. And she just totally misses that. Passover happens in this book, and there's a whole discussion about all the food that we need to have and all the stuff we need to do for Hanukkah and all the stuff we need to do for the celebration for Esther. So there's Purim. There's all these explanations of the rituals, which I did enjoy, but it was missing the meat of the story, which is why the person celebrates that. So that was something that I felt, that's just, you're missing it just a little bit. I applaud you for approaching the subject, but you just missed the main point of it. So that is my review of the Martian Contingency. I will say that as a whole, I enjoyed the book, and as a readable, fun space read, it's fun. It's not as good as the first book, in my opinion, and it's not on the level that I would say some other hard science fiction authors have their books, like Ben Bova. But I would say it is a fun, hard sci-fi book, and I do applaud Tor for writing and publishing hard sci-fi. I know that's something that's not really the most in the public eye as much. I know Bain does some hard sci-fi. I know Tor's gone undone and a lot of other stuff. So I applaud them for continuing to publish this hard sci-fi like this. But I had a lot of issues from plot contrivances to some major worldview issues in the book. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I still enjoyed it. So, talk about all my criticisms. I still really enjoyed the book, but I had criticisms. So if you've read The Martian Contingency, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. Have you read the other books in the series? Let me know your thoughts on them as well in the comments section. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.